done anyway. So at the end of the show, we just do the live. The edit for the tags and stuff like that. So yes, welcome YouTube. Hello YouTube. Welcome to the pre-show show. Well, Adam's going to quickly finish his shepherd's pie, and then we'll crack on with it.
Oh, shall I finish it quickly? And
Go on, gobble it down. We'll say a quick hello to YouTube. And this is the bit that all you guys on YouTube get to hear and see, that all the people on Spotify, etc., and people that listen on the audio don't get to see. So this is where we get to put our teeth in and get our heads together before we actually start the actual show talking bit. So anyway, welcome YouTube. Don't be afraid to drop comments in the box. We can see that there. If you want to ask any questions throughout the show, then you can do that, and I will highlight your question on screen as well, so that way we can all see what you've asked. Everyone who's watching the show can see what you've asked, and it all works well. So I'm just going to drop that in.
Yes, welcome all. Sorry, I am scoffing my face at the moment.
He is absolutely scoffing a shepherd's pie down his gullet. He's shepherd's pie in it. He's shepherd's pie in it. Just make sure I move around a bit so you can see a few of the old shirts on the old wall of shirts at the back there. So, yes.
Now, push mine down a bit so you can see me a bit more.
How much of that you got left? How much of that you got left, fat boy?
Not much now.
All right.
It's just hot.
All right. So if you can mute your thing for a second if you want. I'll do the quick intro as soon as I finish the intros, then we'll be ready to go. All right, let's crack on with that then. Hello and welcome to the Talk Football Podcast. This is Season 5, Episode 2. And in today's episode, I'm going to be joined by Adam James. And we are going to be talking about the start of the Premier League, just touching on a few of the transfers, the key transfers. I'm not going to go through all of them because that would take way too long to do all the ins and outs. So we're going to be talking about the key transfers, players that we think could make a significant impact, and one or two players that have left those clubs. We'll go through all the clubs in the Premier League. We have the trusty transfer market page up, so we can actually look at what's in and out for each individual team. And then that should take us fairly close to 4 o'clock, where we should then have team news for the England versus Ireland game, which is at 5 p.m. And then we'll just do a little quick reaction to that. So welcome to the pod, Adam.
Cheers, my mate. Thank you very much again.
Yes. So yeah, it's been a strange. I'm not a big fan of the international weeks. I've said that before. But I suppose having Nations League games is better than having a completely pointless friendly. But it's nice to have the football back. We're a few games in now, and so we're going to have a little look through
there is some decent transfers, to be fair, I must say, and some surprises.
Yeah, there is. I mean,
some shockers. I was quite surprised about.
As we get down the list, we'll we're going to go club by club, and as we get down the list, obviously we'll talk about one or two transfers, because I've got a couple of opinions on one or two of the transfers, which I do think is going to be a detriment to those players' careers, in my opinion. So we're going to kick off. Let's kick off. We're going to do this alphabetically, and so we're going to kick off with Arsenal. And I think they've made some pretty shrewd signings, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I don't think. Yeah, I mean, I know that there was a clamour for them to sign another forward in terms of an out-and-out, maybe number 9, to compete with Jesus and Havertz. But I don't necessarily think really that they needed that. I think goals for them come from all over the pitch anyway. So if you want to go highlight the, you can kick it off, mate.
Do you want me to kick it off?
Yeah, highlight the highlighted ins.
Ricardo Calafiori. If that's how I've spelt it right.
Calafiori, yeah.
Calafiori. I think that's brilliant, especially at 22.
He did pick up an injury though, for Italy last night. So I don't know how serious that is.
That's not great.
So we'd have to wait over the next 1 or 2 days to find out if that injury is significant. But a very good player.
But still at 22 years of age as well. That's fantastic.
It's good signing. Very good signing.
And I think he's in the Italy team as well, isn't he? Like you say,
He is, yeah.
So he's a national.
Can play left back, can play centre back. So
better,
he's quite versatile. Yeah, and then they obviously strengthen in the midfield area as well.
Yeah, Marino. Yeah,
and that's a very good player.
I was quite shocked at that one personally because I never thought he'd leave there because he's been there for years, and it's so.
Well, I mean, it looked like Liverpool were the favourites to get him, but for whatever reason, that didn't seem to happen.
And the price quite shocked me for his age as well, 28.
The
price was a bit of a shocker.
But he's a good player, and that will provide a bit of depth. Because I think with Arsenal's title challenge the last couple of seasons, just not quite having that quality in terms of squad depth is probably what really cost them in actually chasing down Manchester City or staying out in front.
Because they missed the likes of Cazorla and all them, didn't they, years ago? And that's what they're not getting, players like that, and that's what they need.
They need that quality backup.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
players. And then obviously
another signing that really surprised me. And you're probably going to smile at this one, but Raheem Sterling, that was a weird one.
It didn't necessarily surprise me because they're not covering. Let's put this out there. They're not covering all his wages, so they're covering I think just under half of his wages, if I've got that information right. But that still gets a big chunk of his wages off of Al.
It's just what surprised me was it going to a rival. I'm like, I thought I'm sure.
I mean,
technically,
that
wasn't being allowed.
I mean, technically, at the moment, the way where we are, Chelsea currently. I mean, we're not probably rivals with them in terms of a sense of actually challenging for where their league position is going to be. I'd love to be, but we're not.
I can understand why he's done it though, because he stays local, doesn't he? He stays local to where he is.
Yeah, anyway. I know that was a big factor that he didn't want to leave London. And and he's worked with obviously it's worth remembering he has worked with Arteta before when Arteta was an assistant to Pep at Man City.
I forgot about that.
So there is a relationship there. They know each other well, and I think leading up to transfer deadline day, Arteta did make some significant comments that Sterling was a player that he was capable of working with and would be happy to work with.
I think he'll do all right then, I do. I think it'll bring the best out of him.
I don't necessarily think he'll start every game. Obviously, his preferred position will be off the left, so he'll be in direct competition with Martinelli and Trossard across there. So I know Trossard probably wasn't particularly happy with that signing, but
he's playing. He's out of his world now. Trossard, he's scored. Then,
you need depth anyway, so it provides that for them. And you never know what happens with these. International breaks, players get injured, stuff like that.
True. Here's another one. A bit of quite well. I know it's only a loan, but Neto. Is that as a backup? Do you reckon, or
he'll be a backup? No, well, I don't think he'll take Raya's place. I think Raya's shown his class in the first few games of the season already, and obviously that's finalised as a permanent deal now. So I'm not surprised. Obviously, Neto is quite old, but he captained Bournemouth last season.
He did. Yeah.
And
they're all right team, to be fair. You know what? I'm quite surprised.
Yeah, they're a good team. So, but it's in terms of Arsenal, that's a sensible sign-in. It provides a bit of goalkeeping depth. And then we're not going to touch on all their players that left, but I'll start with the out players, significant ones for me, which obviously Smith Rowe going to Fulham. We'll touch on that when we talk about Fulham in terms of the impact he can have there. Nketiah, obviously he's gone to Palace. And Ramsdale, who went to Southampton. Ramsdale's an interesting one, and we'll talk about that when we get on.
When we at Bournemouth, in a bit.
To Southampton.
Southampton. Sorry, not Bournemouth. Yeah, sorry.
So that was Arsenal, and I do think adding that depth, I do think they'll be there or thereabouts again in terms of challenging for the Premier League.
You reckon?
I do. Yeah, I think it will. I think Liverpool will be. Not far behind, but I still think it'll be.
I think it's going to be a tight one again. It's going to be very tight.
I still think because the squads that City and Arsenal have got, and the trajectory, and the fact that Arsenal have strengthened in areas where they lacked a bit of depth, etc. I do think they'll go a bit closer to City. I still think City are gonna. I think they'll still win it. I think they'll still fly away with it personally, but I think Arsenal will be closer, and maybe just maybe they could potentially do it this year if everyone stays fit and the players that they've brought in, in addition to the squad,
I'd like to, because I'm sick of Man City winning
it. Well, you can't have them doing it this many times in a row. That's for sure. It would, in my opinion, that would be bad for football in terms of the Premier League. But yeah, anyway, I say Arsenal. I think they'll be there or thereabouts. I think that's sensible signings. They've not gone absolutely crazy, and they've actually brought in a fair bit of money in terms of the players that have gone out. So for them, I think that's good. Yeah. So we'll move on to Aston Villa.
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 I'll start off, shall I, with Anana from Everton.
Again, I don't know about you, but I'm not really in with a hype on Anana. I'm not
keen on him, to be honest.
I like it. I think he's a good player. Do I think he's a 60-odd million?
No, he reminds me too much of Bambi. Sure. When he gets the ball, he just falls over all the time.
And the injury record's a little bit sketchy as well.
Yeah.
He missed.
But he is young though. He is only 22, so you've got to bear that in mind as well.
Yeah, he missed a lot of games. For Everton, but he is a powerhouse midfielder, and he can, he is box to box. He is powerhouse, and if you keep him fit, then I've no doubts that he will be.
And to be fair, he has been playing well for Everton though. For Villa, he's been playing well. What I've seen.
Yeah, so, and obviously they took Maatsen as well off of my club Chelsea.
Yeah,
which I think that for everyone that was a good deal all round. I believe so.
I wasn't going to touch up on this one, but Archer, that was a weird one.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. So they brought him in and they've sent him out on loan.
Yeah. No, they left it. He went from obviously brought him from Sheffield United, and then as we'll cover that in the next one, he went to Southampton. Out. Yeah, but I was going to cover that on the out anyway. But
is that just a profit thing where they've been
it's just profit? Yeah.
Did they not have a buyback clause on him?
Yeah, they did when he went to Sheffield United. Yes. So that's why they brought him back. But then they sold him out for more, which is good. Do you know what? It's good business.
I mean, it's a good way of getting around FFP and making a few extra.
Exactly.
A few bits of profit.
Exactly. I wasn't going to touch up on him, but I think that's it for them, really.
Well, yeah, and really. Two relatively significant players that have left
which I was shocked with these two.
And Diaby. I wasn't, because to be honest, the Douglas Luiz one's been coming for a few seasons.
Luiz, I knew that was coming anyway because of Lehman and she was going and all that rumours, and then him being in a relationship, I thought that's something's going to happen. He's going to go there.
She followed him. Yeah, he signed there first, and then she followed.
Yeah, she followed him. Yeah, so I knew it.
And Diaby, I'm not too surprised on that one. Terrible injury record. And they've taken a fairly significant fee from the Saudi league for him. So
and a money grabbing get.
That's good business all round, really, for that, I believe.
That's good money, and that is very good.
That's the key ones for Aston Villa. So, I do expect Villa to be sniffing in. I think it'll be a tougher season for them because obviously they've got Champions League to contend with.
Yeah, I've got that. I've got them in Champions League.
Yeah, I do expect them to still be in and around the top six, where they may be able to have a little bit of a push towards the top four again. They've started off a little bit shaky. Ollie Watkins is not quite up to speed yet after recovering from the Euros. So John Duran's been starting, but I do expect that Ollie Watkins will be back firing.
Duran's been scoring though, well, hasn't he? He's
a very good player, and he was linked with moves away as well. Because Chelsea, yet again, I mean, we're linked with everyone, but we were in for him last season. We tried to get a deal done around about the 40-odd million. It never happened, but I thought he may, and there was other clubs looking at him again this transfer window, but it never happened. They've kept hold of him. I think they needed to. He is, he's young. Was he at 18, 19, or whatever he is, or 20?
He's not very old, that's for sure. But it's like Emery as well. I'm very impressed with Emery at Villa. A great manager. Did a lot for Seville, didn't he? You know what I mean?
Class manager. And if anyone knows how to do well in the European competitions and manage that workload, it will be him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope for their sake, because I've got a few mates who are Villa fans, I hope that the European adventures they have are not at the detriment to their league placing and position. But you got to go for it. You might only get one or two opportunities of being in the Champions League, so you might as well have a crack at it.
I've got a friend, Rob Evans. He goes to the matches, lives in Birmingham.
Yeah.
So he's massive on them.
That's it.
I've got high hopes for them, to be honest. I really have.
I still think they'll be there or thereabouts, and I think they'll probably do fairly well in cup competitions this season as well. But probably, you wouldn't be too surprised if they picked up an FA Cup. You know, I wouldn't be surprised at that at all.
Just never say never, as I say.
No.
Never
So
say it.
Bournemouth.
Right. Bournemouth now, yeah.
Bournemouth.
Oh.
And obviously they break their transfer record, bringing in Evan Nilsson, who's a young Brazilian striker, significant money.
Very good player for Porto, he was.
Yeah, and they brought in Sinistera as well. Yet again, a dynamic winger, can play anywhere across the front. And obviously that was their two probably key signings.
Yeah. And then they had now, which he was on loan last season anyway.
He was, yes. That was,
I believe
that was an obligation to buy as well. But yeah, again, a good backup striker.
And here's one I've not heard of: that Houston from Juventus, a 19-year-old centre back, Spanish.
Yeah, so I think
I've never heard of him, but I'd like to see him play. So
yeah, I think Bournemouth are never going to be able to go absolutely crazy in terms of spending, but they did bring it. They sold Solanke, and that brought in significant funds, which has funded obviously the signings that they brought out. I mean, I personally, I like Solanke.
We'll get on to that when it comes to Spurs.
When we get to Spurs, and I know I've got Paul. Obviously, Paul's coming over from New Zealand, who's a regular on the show. He likes the signing as well, so we'll talk about that when we get to Spurs. But yeah, that was the key ones for Bournemouth. I do feel this could be a bit of a struggle season for Bournemouth.
Yeah, I agree.
If they without Solanke's goals, when he was amazing in the season just gone, without those goals, if the players they've brought in can't hit the ground running and they get into a bit of a rut. But Iriola, I actually had him down last season as being one of after replacing Scotty Parker, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I did have him down as one of the favourites to be sacked, and I got that wrong, and he actually did a pretty good job. So he's a good.
I was quite surprised last season. I was quite surprised at Bournemouth. I thought relegation, could be on the cards.
Well,
but
do you know what?
They surprised me as well, to be fair, which I was quite shocked about.
Play some really good football. And then when you've got a striker that's on a hot streak, the way Solanke was, he didn't miss many games, and he's a good target man, and he can stretch teams in behind as well. He has got a bit of pace.
I think he did need the big move as well.
I'm not so sure because this happened before with him, because obviously he was with us at Chelsea,
didn't he? Yeah,
and he went Liverpool, and he had an opportunity there. It didn't work out. And then he's obviously gone to Bournemouth and come back up through the Championship with them, and done really well. But it is worth bearing in mind, it's one flying season. I know it was like 22, 23 Premier League goals, whatever it was, but it was only one flying season in the Premier League, and to spend as much money on him that has been spent. I still think it's a bit of a risk for a player I'm not convinced is a 20-goal a season striker.
No,
but
especially at
a good player.
It was
60 odd. Yeah, I know.
Wow.
So anyway, but is
that with add-ons or is that with?
I don't know.
Probably with add-ons, surely.
I think it was something like 55 odd, and then
wow. There's no more outs really there at Bournemouth, I don't think.
Not really. Nothing significant. Really, nothing that you would think would cause a problem to the squad.
No.
So there we move on to Brentford. And Brentford's an interesting one because we've had the whole will he go, will he stay, Tony saga, and it went down to the wire transfer deadline day, and obviously left for significant money to the Saudi League. But we'll talk about we'll cover that in a second. But I want to talk. We'll talk about their ins first. And they had a bit of misfortune, so they brought in Igor Thiago, a Brazilian striker, and they brought him in, and he gets injured pre-season. He's pretty much probably going to miss most of the season, if not all of it, which is a real shame because he was the one that was obviously going to be a direct replacement for Ivan Toney. But worth bearing in mind, they have still got Mbeumo, they have still got Visser. So it's not like they're short in forward areas, and they have got some
players either at all, are they? Them?
Yeah, they have got good wingers, and obviously, if they can get Thiago back, quicker than expected, then that would be good for them. But they did sign Carvalho from Liverpool, a good young attacking midfielder.
And a decent defender as well.
And the dog agrees as well.
Yeah, Lexi agrees.
Lexi agrees. So they have signed one or two significant players, and they do have some attacking ability in those forward areas. So again, I think it might be a bit of a struggle for Thomas Frank this season, and it could be potentially without Tony's goals, although they had him missing, obviously because of the betting scandal.
Yeah,
they had him missing they survived, and obviously they lost their number one goalkeeper Rayo last season. So, but they've got Flecken, and he seems all right. I don't know if they've got any other goalkeepers that will.
I have an inkling in January. I think he will sign another striker.
I think he probably will,
or a couple, or even if it's on loan.
Even if they can bring a loan in, it would be sensible, you would think. Exactly. Yeah. See, Lexi agrees. So if anyone's wondering and watching who that is, that's little Lexi dog. She's a little dash hound, and she sits on the bed behind Dad, and she agrees sometimes with what he says, and sometimes she don't, and she tells him off if he's talking rubbish.
Yeah, she'll growl if she doesn't agree.
So that's Brentford. I mean, there's not obviously many significant outs that they had, other than
only Tony and Raya. Yeah,
obviously Raya was already an obligation to buy, and that the only other real one that you would think would be a player that might have featured in the first team probably would have been Frank Onyeka, who's obviously he's gone out with loan to transfer, so I think that's an obligation to buy if he plays a certain amount of games for the club he's gone to.
And another one I was quite surprised with old Brentford, Mope. He was on loan, wasn't he, at Everton?
Yeah, it was.
Was he on loan or was
he? No, he was owned by Everton and went on loan to Brentford.
And
now he's now gone on a $6 million.
And we'll talk about it when we get to Everton, then, won't we?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily think that was a big shocker, really. I mean, he's not a bad player, but he's not great. He's one of them players that you don't mind having on your team because he winds everyone else up. But everyone else hates him. Right, so we're moving on to Brighton now. I mean, they're obviously the money that they've brought in terms of their players that have gone out is really significant.
It's a lot of ins. I'm looking at the list now. It's a lot of ins.
Yeah. Let me just bring up Brighton here.
Yeah, I've got Jorginho Ruta from Leeds.
From Leeds, very, very good signing.
Great player, 22 as well, young. Signing.
I mean, they've got.
That's what I like about Brighton. They always sign young players. They don't sign past their prime players.
I think Brighton's recruitment.
It's fantastic.
Recruitment in terms of players that they've then brought in that have then gone on. To be sold for significant. I mean, obviously we paid 100 million for Caicedo off of them, and 60 odd million for.
That's what I mean. But the business is great from them. It's like that one from Newcastle, that Yakuba.
Manta. I mean, Minty, yeah. If he turns out to be a player that who could fulfil that potential, rather, I mean that supplements their forward areas for what they've already got. And they've already got some, pretty good players. I mean, Danny Welbeck's still knocking about, and he's still scoring
as well. Yeah,
I've always liked Welbeck. There you go. Yeah, Brighton, as Willie says in there, I'm going to highlight that because that's a very, 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 very good comment. That Brighton are the new Southampton. This is something Southampton were doing years back when they got their recruitment right, and they were bringing young players through and then knocking them on and selling them on for significant fees. So it's a very good point, Willie. I do like that.
Yeah, it's good.
But yeah, in terms of Jorginho Ruta, he's a player that I think could do it in the Premier League. I like him as a forward. Again, he's got that bit of pace. He can go in behind. Whether or not he can adapt from Championship to Premier League, he'll need to be given time. But obviously, having Danny Welbeck as well, it does take that bit of pressure off of him. He ain't going to be playing every game, and he ain't going to have to be scoring every game. So, it is a good signing, I think. I believe.
Willie, which means they will be in the Championship in the next few seasons.
Well, do you know what? I mean, this is the thing. This is the thing. I mean, they've let obviously a couple of significant players go. particularly Billy Gilmore. I like Billy Gilmore.
I was shocked at that one.
I thought he was a very good signing for them when he signed from Chelsea to them. It's a massive move for Billy Gilmore, to go to Napoli. That's a big move, and obviously he's going to be partnering Scott McTominay in the midfield at Napoli.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
so it's going to be a fascinating one to see how he does there.
And there's a couple of players there that have gone out as well. 2 Germans have gone to the German teams. So you got Undav and Pascal Gross.
Yeah, I'm not too surprised on
Gross gone to Dortmund.
I mean, for Gross, that's a fantastic move. He gets to go back to Germany and gets to go to a fantastic club. I think he's like 33, 34 now. So for him, that's a really good move. Buonanotte, again, I mean, he's gone to Leicester on loan. He's a player I do quite like as an attacking midfielder. Can play off the wings or centrally through the middle as a 10.
Could be a good loan, to be fair.
I think it's a good loan. I'm a little bit surprised that Brighton let him go, but they have got some good players in forward areas. You've still got Ferguson, etc. So they have managed to hang on to him.
And Lallana's gone back to Southampton, where he started his career.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of Southampton players, fans weren't particularly happy with that, to be honest. We'll touch on that.
I think it was just under £1 million. I think.
I don't know. Was it free? But I mean, again, in forward areas for Brighton, they've got fantastic players in terms of Welbeck, obviously. João Pedro has started the season well. You've got Matoma. If Matoma can stay fully fit, that's a great player. An absolute great player. I think that he'll possibly be the next big one in terms of a transfer that goes out for a lot of money. And then they've got a younger player in Adingra as well. Who, again, if he comes in, he can flourish and end up being a very, very good player for him in terms of.
We're into the crazy frog then for a bit. Ding 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 ding.
Yeah, ding ding ding.
Right, on to the next club now, which is.
Yes,
I'll let you go with this one.
Oh, well, do we have to? I mean, it's at times it's been farcical. We've got again. I mean, there's been more controversies this week. The fact that everyone's kicking off because we've left Cole Palmer out of the UEFA League squad. Where do I start with Chelsea? I mean, just to touch on it. I mean, even overnight we've had this breaking news about that Clear Lake would be happy to buy Todd Bowie completely out of his stake in the club. And vice versa. You've got Bowie exploring whether or not. So you've got all this going on in the background, and yet we're not getting it right in terms of on the pitch. We've been buying players up left, right, and centre. Significantly, there we have brought in, I think, some good players.
3 good players, I think. First 3.
I mean, Pedro Neto. We'll start with that because I think that's a very good sign. If you can keep Pedro Neto fit, you've got a very, very good player. And we've already seen that when he came on against Wolves in that second half, he absolutely terrified them. João Felix is an interesting one. It's very easy to forget that a few seasons ago, Atletico Madrid paid 112 million for João Felix. He was next big thing. Over the last couple of seasons, it hadn't really happened for him. It hasn't really kicked on. Obviously, he went to bouncing between loans between etc. Barcelona and Atleti, and it didn't quite happen. But when he came on loan to Chelsea, obviously got a red card in one of the games. That didn't really help. But we saw glimpses of the player that he could potentially be, and I know that he liked being in London. He felt, obviously there's a massive Portuguese community in London. I know he felt at home with the club, and that all the players there made him feel very, very welcome. I know he got on very, very well with Noni Madueke. He got on very well with Broja. There's that famous video where they're promoting EA Sports.
Yeah, so that 3 of them stood together at EA Sports.
And the He Sports, and you got Noni and Broja absolutely cracking up at it. So I know that there's that connection that he already felt at home with the club. So, and I honestly think at the money that we've paid, I think that potentially,
that's a bargain.
Mate, listen, he's only 24.
Yeah,
he's only young. That is. He's a young
Same
player.
with Neto, both 24.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
this
they're
has been the
bargains,
thing.
they are.
Now, I know we've signed a lot of players, a ridiculous amount of players, and a lot of them will be farmed out through the loaning things that we do, which will generate income. And then if one or two of those players do well on loans, then they end up getting sold at the end of those loans because they've increased their value because they've gone out, they've played minutes. So it's not something. This is something. It's not just something the new owners have stumbled across. Roman Abramovich was doing this season in, season out with players. It's just that because it's Clear Lake and we're in the spotlight of it at the moment. That at one point in under Roman, we had something like 57 players out on loan.
That's
but
ridiculous.
But that generates income and it's sensible. And because albeit we have very wealthy owners, I mean the owners we've got now are they're more wealthy than Abramovich.
Yeah.
But because of PSR and the stupid rules that under that you can't have losses over a 3-year period of more than 105 million or whatever it is. And I think this is the last season of PSR anyway. There's a new system coming in about transfer rules and profit and loss coming in for the next season anyway.
Talking about rules, I saw another one the other day. The offside rules changing.
Again.
The whole body has to be offside now.
Really?
So
are we going back to the daylight thing again?
Yeah. So it's if there's a foot in line with their player, right, it's onside. So the whole body has to be past the defender. I read that the other day.
If that is the case, that would be fairly sensible.
I think that's decent, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, going on to a couple of the other transfers, obviously Dewsbury Hall. I mean, it's a player that obviously Maresca knows well, having him at Leicester. I feared for him that this could be another drink water situation.
Yeah, I thought about that when I thought, here we go, Leicester, another player.
Yeah, I do think he probably will get a fair amount of minutes and play quite a bit. And then Jadon Sancho, which is obviously going to be the one that's the big unknown. Quite how that fits in. Obviously, he's going to get opportunities, particularly.
I think he'll do well. To be honest.
Listen, if we get
giving him a chance,
if we get the Dortmund Sancho, we're getting a good player. And again, he's only 24.
And Maresca, I think he'll do a really good job with him as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they got caught out. They got caught out talking a few little porkies because I remember reading. So like, obviously, said, "Oh yeah, I know Maresca from my days at Man City." Well, Maresca joined the Man City coaching set up 3 years after Sancho had left. So when Sancho went from City to Dortmund, so I don't think that there's a connection there. I think that that's something. But apparently Sancho as a boy was a Chelsea fan. He's from this part of London, so
like I say, I think he'll do well, mate. I think he'll get back in the winning team.
I wouldn't be surprised. I think, I think if we get the player that was on loan at Dortmund last season and the player that obviously kicked his career into gear at Dortmund, I think we get a very good player. And yet again, the money it's a loan with a obligation to buy. If he plays a certain amount of games, I think
25 to 30 million.
25 to 30 million.
That's a bargain, mate. If he's a player like you said, Dortmund,
mate, and it could be another Palmer situation. It could be a player that kicks on. And if you look at the forward line, if we keep everyone fit, Nkunku, Pedro Neto, Palmer, Madueke, Felix,
team on paper,
Sancho,
sounds ridiculous.
If we can get the defensive side of it right, we could really potentially push back to where we want to be in terms of regular European qualification and having a push back towards that top four.
Well, I want to ask your thoughts on this one. We're going into the outs now. I want to ask your thoughts on Conor Gallagher.
I know that. Listen, I mean, I like Conor Gallagher. I think he's a very good player. Is he a world-class midfielder? No. It's worth pointing out and remembering with Conor Gallagher that he was offered 2 contracts. He turned those contracts down because he wanted more money. He wanted more money. We were offering him contracts. The contracts, whether or not the contracts that were being offered were fair or any good, it doesn't matter. He was offered contracts. He turned them down. He's in the last year of his thing. In terms of the club looking at it, saying, right, we can't afford to lose this guy on a free next year. He's not going to sign the contract exactly. He's not going to sign a contract. So let's maximise what we can get from him. So if a Premier League team came in, the price that was set was going to be around about the 43 to 45 million odd. But we're saying that if you go abroad, we'll take a lower price, but then we'll have the add-ons, etc. So obviously, I think it works out with add-ons. It could go to around about 38, 39 million or something like that, or just breaching into the 40s.
Decent money there, to be fair, I think.
Yeah, which I think for a player of his abilities, I do think he will do very, very well though for Athletic. I think,
and at the age of 24 as well. So
I think Simeone is the right kind of manager for him as well. Yeah. He'll anchor that midfield if he plays a lot, and he'll be playing alongside some very, very good players like Paul and all that. So,
I think you got good money for Lukaku as well, considering his age 31.
I mean,
it's been coming though. It's been coming for years.
To be fair, I mean, we've made a bit on loans on him for the time that he's been out on loans, etc. And we've lost a significant amount of money. There's no way around that. I mean, but for more importantly for me and for the club and for the way our wage structure is now, getting his wages off the books.
It's a lot off the wage bill, isn't it? Yeah.
Wow. That was more important than the money we brought in for him on the transfer itself. He was on something like 300 odd K a week or whatever it was. And the way our current wage structure is, most of the top earners are on around about 125 to 150 or whatever. There's not many left at the club now that are in that 200 odd bracket.
Yeah, well, speaking of that as well, Thiago Silva, he was on a bit of good wage as well.
He wasn't.
He left. Was he not?
He wasn't.
Was he not?
No, he wasn't on big money, mate. No, I mean, obviously it was a free transfer and initially, and he was on a good wage. Obviously, the signing on fee would have been significant.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he went on big money, and you look at all these young players that we've signed now, because they're all in these long-term contracts. The actual weekly wages are not massive. When we got rid of this, when we had this big massive squad overhaul, and we got rid of all these players that were on the massive money, we saved ourselves something like 200 odd million a week or whatever it was on wages. I know, it's phenomenal. That's so mad. And all the players that we brought in, Cole Palmer, before he signed this extension and bump in wages, I think Cole Palmer's wage when we signed him from City, it was on about 75 grand a week.
And there's another one as well, Chalobah on loan to Palace.
Yeah, so that
I quite rated him. I
believe Chalobah is loan to transfer. Yeah, again, I personally thought when he came back from his injury, I thought he was phenomenal. And when he came into the team, Caicedo was playing really well, particularly. But for me, when Trev came in the team, I thought that the performances of the team and the stability of the defence was much better.
Yeah,
and I'm gutted. I think that's a massive mistake, and I think that. But having said that, we've got Fofana back from injury. We've got Tosin, although he hasn't started brilliantly. We've got Tosin on a free from Fulham. Colwell, you've still got, so we've got an abundance.
Some decent ones still, yeah.
Yeah, I know Badiashile is suffering at the moment with his confidence and the way he's playing, but he can still be a good player. Disasi ain't a bad backup, can cover the right back areas. Obviously, with Reece out injured, if Malagusto gets injured, Disasi can cover there. So we've got a bit of depth in terms of that. I know we lost a few, but again, I mean, good money that we brought in for Connor, good money for Ian Maatsen. We've got a vast portion of Sterling's wages off the book, Lukaku's wages off the book, and then obviously from last season, Lewis Hall's. That's a finalised deal, obviously, because that was an obligation to buy at the end of the loan as well. So
this is passion, look how long we've gone on for Chelsea.
I know, and I didn't want to talk about Chelsea. Passion. It is what it is, isn't it? Again, I mean, it's a complete unknown with young players. They're so inconsistent. So we could go on a run and we could finish top four, or we may be hovering mid-table. And
I think you'll do better than last season. Let's just say that.
I think so, and I think we have to give Maresca time to implement the way he's going to want to play. We have to be patient with that. Lavia is going to be a massive player for this season. I know he's out injured again.
Hopefully, I have seen changes though of the team. The team has been playing well of late.
They have.
I'll give it that.
And I quite like the fact that when we have Noni on the right and we have Palmer in the 10 with be it Nkunku or Jackson through the middle or whatever, and then Neto off the left, I think that's right. My one player I really need to see a bit more from would be Mudryk, and I was hoping that this would be the breakout season for Mudryk. Yeah. Ignore the money we paid for him. There's a player in there there's potential in there to be unlocked. It's whether or not he's going to be given the time and
No,
opportunities.
I don't think he's settled in yet either.
I think he's settled.
Probably.
I just think he's so raw. I mean, he hadn't played a massive amount of football.
Yeah, but you got to bear in mind the managerial changes as well. So player probably hasn't settled in with all the. I think with Maresca and he survives. Yes, I think.
See, Maresca likes he likes the wingers that are more like a 10 that plays wide than an out and out wingers, and Mudryk falls into that, and same with Sterling. They fall into that kind of out and out winger. In their best positions, they're out and out wingers, and that's not necessarily something. Whereas Noni can come inside. Noni's good on the ball. Palmer's good on the ball. Neto's good on the ball. You know, they don't have to always have that blistering pace to get in behind players to make something happen. Whereas Mudryk relies on that pace to go past people, but his end product isn't there yet.
No,
given time, maybe it can come. But I think you've seen with the transfers, you're not going to get that kind of time. So
right, let's move on from Chelsea.
Palace.
It's boring me now. I had to say it. Sorry. Right. Palace in Nketiah. Nketiah from Arsenal.
Again, I think that's potentially a good signing for Palace. They've already got a number of forwards anyway. Obviously, Mateta went on a really good scoring streak towards the end of last season.
Yeah, he did. I remember
and Palace were probably, along with Chelsea, were probably towards the end of the season, were two of the informed teams in the Premier League. And so, great. They did really well. Getting Glasner as a manager is brilliant.
And they've signed two other decent players as well.
Yeah, so obviously Nketiah will get goals. If you're given the service, Nketiah will get goals. I've no doubt about that.
And Lacroix from Wolfsburg.
Yeah, a very good
centre back. Great signing.
Nice bit of experience goes in alongside there. Again, another one which was not maybe a significant in terms of like money, but we've seen him play in the Premier League before for Watford in Sarr.
Ismaila Sarr, he's great.
Can play through the middle, can play off the right, can play off the left. Potentially, if they can keep him fit, very, very good player in terms of attacking area. I don't know so much about Kamada in terms of it. I've not really seen much of him when he was playing for Lazio. I didn't get to see him much, so I don't really know too much about him. But yet again, that just supplements their attacking midfield areas and maybe enables Glasner to give Eze a bit of a rest every now and then, etc.
Yeah. And likewise, you say about the experience at the centre back, Chalobah. He's got experience. They've got him on loan. So
potentially as a partnership. I know, and they've lost. Obviously, we'll touch this on on the outs. Yeah. But they did lose the centre back. So in terms of having, but they signed Riyad as well, which is another centre back. So they have got a bit more depth now, and the money that they brought in,
I think.
Yeah, the money they brought in, I think that they've spent it quite well. I expect them to carry on their momentum. I don't think that European qualification might be a bit difficult for them.
No, I still think mid-table.
I think in and around sort of like 10th to 8th would be a really good season for Palace. And in fact, the biggest thing for Palace could be potentially whether or not they can actually hold on to the manager.
Well, that's true. Yeah, because he is a good manager. I do like.
He's a good manager, and it's no doubt. He plays. Clubs will be sacking managers. It always happens. The managerial merry-go round will kick in at some point. I would expect that, and he will be a manager that top teams, if they need a manager, would be looking at, in my opinion. And then on their outs, obviously Elise to Munich. I think he'll do really well there. In terms of their wingers at Munich, you've got Coman, who's not really caught fire for the last season and a bit. So, I think that will supplement that. A forward line of Kane, Elise, Musiala, supplemented with their midfield. Goretzka in behind them, etc. I think they'll do very well. I think that's a shrewd signing.
That's ridiculous.
To be honest, I think that's a very, very good move all round. He gets to play Champions League football, which means he will regularly get into the full French squad. He's a good player. I liked him. Obviously he started off at Chelsea, so he's a player that I've always kept an eye on and followed. I'm gutted that we didn't push harder maybe to bring him back, but
he's very technical on the ball. I must say, he's a very good player. Great
it's just
signing.
one of them, do you know what?
Decent money and all for him as well.
Yeah, there's parts of his game that him and Palmer are relatively quite similar. The fact that you always tell a very, very good player because whenever they got the ball, they look like they've got all the time in the world on the ball. But progressive,
and he always has.
forward passes makes things happen. So I think that's it's a big loss for Palace. But this is not something new to Palace. They've had this before when they lost Wilf.
True, yeah.
And he was their talisman for a fair few years, and everyone worried that when they lost Wilf that Palace would, if things would go bad, they'd go down. But they just seem to find players that will get things done. When Wilf went, it was Eze that they brought in from QPR, and he's done really well. He could potentially be one of the next big ones that go. That wouldn't surprise me. But they've supplemented the squad. They've done well in terms of their ins. Bringing in Sam Johnson as well as a goalkeeper. I think that's a sensible move.
That's a good one. That is, yeah. What about JT Anderson though? That centre back. What do you reckon to him going? To Fulham.
I mean, we'll touch on that when we get to
Fulham, yeah.
And we'll be touching on that after Everton, but.
Yeah, I don't think Everton will last long because there's not many.
No, I don't. I struggle. I said one that surprised me in terms of the money, in terms of how much. But good move for him. Fulham are a good club, and again, he doesn't have to uproot and move house or anything like that. It's only a few miles.
There, just around the corner, pretty much, isn't it?
Well, pretty much. I mean, Palace is the other. I live in Malden. Palace is just up the other side of Croydon, just there, and obviously Fulham is literally just over Putney Bridge, just like down there. So it's like
an Uber to the ground.
less than 10 miles.
Yeah.
So, it's not a big stretch.
That's not bad then, is it? Right, Everton.
No,
huh?
Everton. Do you know what?
I can't. I don't even know any. I think we should just skip that bit.
There's
two signings though.
I've got a couple of mates who are very, very good mates of mine, and they're big Everton fans. But I think this is the year Everton go.
Yeah, 100%. There's two signings for me. Brozier from Chelsea on loan.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he was linked with Ipswich the whole way through the transfer window. It was Ipswich. They were the ones that were going to get him. It didn't happen. There was a problem with the medical, with a foot injury. The very, very last seconds and minutes, Everton come in and got the deal, and it is a loan to transfer.
Yeah,
I believe.
Do you know how much?
It'll be around about 25 to 30 million, depending on appearances, etc. I believe. Right. I'm not too sure.
And this was a shock to me from QPR, Asmir Begovic. I've actually met him because when he was at Stoke, I don't Morrison's, and he come in and I served him in Morrison's.
Yeah, I don't think that's too surprised at the age he is. I think he'll go in there with to help him, a bit of coaching and play the odd games here and there.
I think he'll play cups more than anything.
Obviously, departure wise, I mean, Everton have been in trouble with PSR rules, etc. Obviously, last season they suffered with the double points deduction. So, they had to sell players. Onana was their biggest asset in terms of money wise they could get back. Godfrey going to Italy.
Decent price for that though.
Yeah. Godfrey. Yeah, Godfrey going to Italy. I believe he was in the last year of his contract anyway.
Yeah, it was.
Him going to Italy.
He wants to leave. It was
a bit of a surprise. Yeah. They've got Mopé off the books in terms of a loan to Marseille
as well. Yeah.
And I believe that's with a commitment to a 6 million transfer as well.
Yeah, and Lewis Dobbin as well. I think that's a transfer with add-ons.
Yeah,
Dobbin, which great player, but at Derby I didn't.
Yeah, but with that one, this is all about these. This is all about Villa and Everton negating the PSR rules.
Yeah,
because I
noticed that because there's a lot in there that's doing that.
I believe Everton took. I can't remember who it was, but I believe they have taken a player. Let me just bring up all the rivals because I do believe Everton took a player from Aston Villa, so that on their books that both goes down as pure profit transfers. So it kind of, it's a kind of a funny one. Let me just have a look here. Yeah, here it is. So they took Tim.
Ugambanum,
Ugambanum. He's a young player, so they took him in for 10 million. So on Aston Villa's books, that then goes down as a pure profit transfer, and then obviously, Dobbin going the other way, that then goes down.
As well.
Yeah, but no, Anana's different because obviously that works there because he's not an academy product. An academy product, goes down as pure profit. So you've seen this with a few clubs where they're doing this whole switch around players. So these young players that are getting
that explains that Archer one then.
Yes, this is all about academy products, pure profit things. It's a manipulating. It's clever. It's manipulating the rules. Because obviously when you buy other players, they or sell other players, you don't necessarily get all the money up front, etc.
So we're on this one then, and we move on to Fulham, right? Would this include Smith Rowe then as well, with him being an academy for Arsenal?
Yes. So that then becomes a pure profit sale, and obviously that's
pure profit for Arsenal. Yeah.
So that's
And now I get it now because when you've mentioned it before, I'm like, I didn't get what it meant by that.
Yeah.
But now I get it now. It's all to do with youngsters.
This is like with Chelsea. This is about why there was such a clamour to sell Chalobah and Conor Gallagher because they are pure profit because they're academy players. Yeah. So that's why. Right. So we'll have a look at Fulham then.
Yeah, we've just mentioned Smith Rowe. We've already mentioned him anyway.
Yeah, so I think
great signing for Fulham.
I think that's a very, very good move for all of them. Yeah. I mean, obviously for Arsenal, they get good money. For the player, he will probably play most, if not all, games.
Yeah, and then Anderson as well, centre back. Palace have just been on about good signing as well.
And Sander Berg as well.
From Burnley.
From Burnley, again, they've strengthened.
Great signing.
Forward areas, they strengthened at the back, and they've strengthened their midfield. The loan of Reece Nelson as well. I mean, he
potentially has.
For me, that's a player that falls into that sort of Sancho bracket because when he was on loan out before playing abroad, he did really, really well.
Yeah,
and I just think he needs an opportunity, and I think he'll get that at Fulham.
And there's another one as well, Ryan Sessegnon from back to.
I mean, obviously he suffered
free transfer.
It's free transfer. It's where he started out anyway. He's a Roehampton boy from literally 2 minutes down the road from
where you are.
So it could potentially be. Obviously, he ain't going to start because Robinson's going to start at left back because Robinson, I think that's a real class player anyway.
He's brilliant,
but it does mean that you can then rotate Sessegnon in and for cup games, etc. The Carabao Cup, etc.
Yeah.
So you can rest players. So again, it all comes down to squad depth.
But good signings all around. Out. This one surprised me a little bit. Palhinha.
No, it didn't for me because it's been on the cards for 2 seasons. It just hasn't happened because no one had been prepared to stump up the money. Bayern Munich had been linked for about 18 months with him. So I'm no surprise for me anyway that happened in the end. I'm quite surprised at the fee.
That's what surprised me most, the fee.
Because it had been dragging on for a couple of seasons, I thought, and his age, he's like 28.
29.
29 now, yeah. So, I thought that the fee would have been lower.
I'd have thought it'd been around about 30 mil, not what it was.
Yeah. So, again, I mean, it's great. It's a great move for him in terms of going to Bayern Munich. He'd be playing, again, Champions League football.
But, again, look, another out. I'm sure he's an academy product, Stansfield. Gone to Birmingham.
Yeah. Again, that's a transfer record for a player in because correct me if I'm wrong. They're League One. I think it's 10 million up front, and then the rest is in add-ons.
Yeah. Definitely 10 million.
Yeah, I believe it is a record transfer for a League One club and a record sale to a League One club. So that just shows the ambition of the new owners at Birmingham, really. So fair play to them.
Yeah, and the reason why they're doing it is because there's only a wage cap there. There's no actual like in the Championship and thing. There's a FFP. So
do they not have that? Do they not have PSR in League One?
No, you don't get it in League One.
So it's only they only have the 83 million loss in or whatever it is, 60 million.
That's why Derby, when they were in League One, they were still able to sign after they come out of administration. They were able to sign still because there was no FFP at all.
Yeah. Another one that they lost. I know it's on a free transfer, but Bobby D. Cordova-Reid, he's been a good servant for him.
It's been a good signing for Leicester, to be fair.
I think it could
when we
be.
get there. I've been watching him. He's good.
When they had Kevin, when they signed Kevin and Babu, I actually, I thought that they would be getting a very, very good player there. I thought, he would thrive in the Premier League. It didn't really happen for him.
No,
it's no surprise to me that he's gone out on loan. And I think Fulham have got a good squad. They've got a good manager in Marco Silva.
And Babu's gone out on a free. He's gone to
free. Yeah,
Michelin. Yeah,
I think that they'll be in the top half of the mid-table team. So maybe anywhere from.
I think it might even be a struggle personally, but we'll see.
I don't think they'll struggle. I think they've still got goals in the team.
We'll see.
They've got Munoz up front who did really well last season. They've got good players in wide areas. They've now got a class player in Smith Rowe who can sit in and around the number 10 and play in behind the striker. So I think Fulham will do. I think they'll do very well.
Yeah, right. Here we go. Newcomers, Ipswich Town.
Ipswich Town. For me, their biggest signing.
Eat shepherd's pie as well.
I know.
I keep looking at it. It's making me drool.
Their biggest signing could be the fact that they kept hold of their manager.
Yes.
It's Kieran McKenna was being obviously touted.
Linked with Chelsea, wasn't he, as well?
He was linked with Chelsea. He's a good manager. He's a good manager. Back-to-back promotions.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one. They've not gone absolutely bananas in the transfer market. I think they've been relatively sensible. So obviously they've taken
two
Calvin
signings.
Phillips.
Yeah, it's two signings that stand out.
Two major signings. Yeah. You've got Calvin Phillips. Obviously, he needs to go somewhere where he's going to play and get his confidence back. We know the player he can be. So I think he'll be in a relatively similar situation as to what he was when he was at Leeds with Ipswich.
And to me, Smodic's a great signing from Blackburn. I watched him play against Derby, mate, and he ripped us.
Yeah, but you don't know how it's gonna. You never know how it's going. Can he do that in the Premier League? Because it's a different.
I think he has been scoring. I'm sure he has been scoring.
Yeah,
I'll get that up now. I'm sure he's been scoring.
Obviously, a player that I'm very familiar with, because yet again, it's another one where Chelsea have made a significant fee on on a homegrown player. I was hoping that he would get his chance at Chelsea. It hasn't worked out that way. I do like him, but we're stacked with players that can play on the right.
And Maury Hutchison, you're on about, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I like him. I really do. He had a great season for Ipswich in their promotion campaign. Scored a lot of goals. For a young player, yet again, it's a good fee. I would have hoped I would have hoped we could have given him an opportunity. But like I say, we're stacked with right wingers, so he weren't going to get games. So it's only fair that he gets an opportunity. It works all round that transfer.
Yeah.
I don't really know that much about Jacob Greaves. Yeah, again, that's a young player. I believe this could be a whole PSR transfer thing again, where you see, again, I mean, they've taken a chance on young Liam Delap from Man City.
He's all right, it's not bad.
I think he'd be a very good player.
Yeah, he was very good.
Well, I like that. Jack Clark again,
a great player.
You're going to have Jack on the left, Amari on the right. If they get it right with a striker through the middle, whether it's Delap or someone else, it got it's going to be between Smodics and Delap. You would have thought who's going to be the starting player, but in terms of the forward areas, but I think it'll be a struggle. It's always a struggle for teams that come up fresh. And it's spending loads of money isn't always the answer for that. And I think the way they play,
I think all right. To be fair,
I think the way they play could suit the Premier League, but you just don't know. It's going to be a bit hit and miss.
I'm going into outs. I'm getting a bit excited.
As long as the fans have a bit of patience.
You'll see one of them on that list in a minute. What I'm getting excited.
Well, we don't. Yeah, I mean, I presume you're talking about Marcus.
Nope.
No.
One on the outs. Caden Jackson.
Oh, yeah. Well, he must be further down my list.
Yeah, so. And I watched him play.
He had a good start.
Oh, mate, he's ridiculous. He is very good, very technical.
Yeah, looks a good player.
Very good on the ball. And obviously, Derby have got another signing. We've signed him from Swansea. Yates, brilliant. So I'm very excited to see Jackson. I'm very excited to see what this Marcus Harness is about. because we've just got him on loan from
But
Ipswich.
do you know what? In the games I've seen so far with Ipswich, I think they've done all right.
Yeah,
and
I do. Yeah,
they look competitive. I believe against teams that are maybe outside the top 8. Technically, I think that they'll do relatively well against. But it's whether or not their depth and experience that they've already got can carry them through towards the end of the season, where the points are really going to matter. But yeah, again, I mean, there could be one or two teams that really struggle this year in the Premier League. We've already talked about Everton, and I think maybe one or two of the other clubs, the other two clubs that came up, could have a bit.
Yeah,
of a
like I said, I think there's going to be some surprises this year.
I do, and there's always one team, and there is a team that I'm going to touch on when we get to them that I think will be one of the surprise teams as well. So, but we'll move on to another of the promoted.
Yeah, I am refreshing, guys, for the England team, so please.
If we get some team news live, we will be thingy. Adam can even bring it up on the screen, you see, and I can show you the team news when it comes up.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye. I keep refreshing, and nothing yet as of yet. But yeah,
and obviously we got Leicester City. Again, a promoted team again.
Yeah.
Don't know.
I don't really know many about the others, like Fatawu and
I
think
do.
that's his name. Do you? I don't. I don't know any of. Obviously, this Cordova Reed. I know him. It's fine. And so, him from Brighton as well.
Yeah, obviously, in terms of El Canoes, attacking midfielder, can play centrally in terms of like a 10 position and all that. I think that's potentially a good player for them. They have obviously got Mavididi, so that whether or not he starts wide or whether he goes through the middle, I don't know.
Yeah.
They've taken Odsonne Edouard on loan from Palace.
Yeah. I think that's a great loan.
Benoit on loan from Brighton. So yeah, and Skip. I think that's. I'm quite surprised that Spurs let him go. Actually, I thought in terms of their squad depth, I thought they might keep hold of him. But he's a good player, not the paciest of midfielders, but very capable of breaking up play, and he is a very, very good passer of the ball.
Yeah.
So what he terms he lacks in that little bit of pace in terms of he's not an 8 or not. He will. I'd imagine he'll sit and hold the midfield and play in the 6. And look to break teams down with his passing. But I think that's a relatively sensible signing for them. In terms of their outs, obviously, we took Dewsbury Hall off of them. Or Drinkwater Mark II, if you believe what some fans have said. Iheanacho has obviously gone out on a free. Same with Suter, and they were probably the main players you would look at in terms of their outs that could.
There's not really many.
Not really, and again, this might be a situation where they've looked at it and thought, well, do you know what? Let's not absolutely go bonkers with the money. If we stay up, brilliant. We'll give it a shot. We'll run with what we've got. Add 1 or 2 players in, and I tell you what, don't underestimate, even at 37. Don't underestimate Jamie Vardy in this league.
No, he's still banging them in, mate. And
137 Premier League goals.
Ridiculous.
Still going strong. Still smacking away cans of Red Bull before he comes on. He's for me, he's just an absolute hero for me. And I still think he's got plenty to offer in terms of what he can do in terms of the Premier League. I really do. And he might not be able to play 3, 4, 5 matches in a row, and he might need a bit of a rest. But then that's why they brought in Edouard. But I think he'll be significant. And if they stay up, I think it probably, if Vardy can get 10 to 15 goals potentially, and then the rest of the team in the wingers etc. can chip in, they may have a reasonable chance of
I think they'll surprise us, mate. Personally, all right. I have team news for England.
Oh, do we have live team news?
We have live team news on BBC on the website. So we've got Pickford in goal.
No surprise there. Oh, Colwell's starting.
Gahey, Maguire, and Trent.
So it looks like Colwell will start at left back then.
Yeah. Trent at right, and then Grealish, Rice, Mainu, Gordon, Kane, and Saka are the starting 11.
No Palmer.
No Palmer, no. Not even on the bench.
Okay, I can't remember whether or not they'd
You've got Angel Gomez, Bowen, Eze, Gallagher, Gibbs White, Henderson, Concert, Rico Lewis, Livramento, Madawaki, Pope, and Stones on the bench. And it's a 4-3-3.
There we go. Well, we'll see how Carsley copes in this first game. So, I mean, it is going to be these couple of games. These Nations League games are a bit of an audition for him.
Yeah.
And do you know what? It's worth pointing out because I know a lot of England fans and a lot of fans and reporters, media, etc., have been saying go for a big name. You need an experienced manager, but
he's been in that setup for years.
Well, not years. He has, he's been there because of, he's been there for the last couple of years, etc. But bear in mind this: Spain won the Euros with the coach that was promoted from the under-21s. Gareth Southgate was promoted from the under-21s and got us to 2 finals and a semi and a quarter against France. It was unlucky. So it doesn't necessarily always have to be the big name and the big manager coming in. Sometimes a manager that's, because when particularly internationals, you're going to be working with players that are coming through over the course of 3 or 4 years. You only get a tournament every 2 years, so your under-21s are, if they play well enough, their clubs could then progress on and carry on and play through to the full squad. And that is something I know that was the whole point of setting up St George's Park and having a centre of excellence, etc., was the fact that you would get these players that would play through all the England levels and progress through to the the full squad.
Well, touching on that, this is the reason why I think he's brought Livramento in, Lewis, Angel Gomez, all players that they've not been in.
And obviously, Kieran, we'll get onto that with Newcastle because obviously Kieran Trippier has been linked with a move away from Newcastle this week because Turkish League transfer window is still open. And obviously, Livramento is a young player that they brought in from Southampton. Yet again, another Chelsea Academy graduate who went to Southampton. The Chelsea players are everywhere, mate. So, it's
stop buying them.
I know. Buying them. We made a lot of money. Right. So, anyway, back to where we were. So we've done that team news, so that's good. Yep. So we're on to Liverpool.
Team news. Sorry, I took in between. So we're on Liverpool now.
Yeah, we're on Liverpool.
Great goalkeeper, had a really good World Cup.
Yeah, Euros.
Sorry, Euros. But it's winding me up.
Bearing in mind, he's not going to be there this season. So that is he's staying on loan at Valencia, and then he'll come next season for competition for Alisson. So whether that means Alisson's on the move next year, we'll wait and see.
I reckon he is, personally.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised. He'll be knocking on 31, 32 maybe then, or maybe 33, I'm not sure. So maybe they could get big money for Alisson off to Saudi club or whatever. So only really one significant signing. And do you know
Chiesa,
what?
Great signing.
I'm a massive, massive fan of Chiesa. The money is ridiculously cheap. So I think it's like 10 million up front with like a couple of million in add-ons or whatever.
Yeah, and he's worth about 30 odd mil. His market value is ridiculous.
But it hasn't gone well for him club level for a couple of years. International level, he's not maintained his place. But again, it's same with the Sancho situation and stuff like that. If you get the player that was not, that's just my air freshener.
I heard that.
If you get the player of a couple of seasons ago when he was kind of breaking through, Liverpool have got a bargain. Honestly, Liverpool
that
have
is
got
for
a bargain.
that price.
And do you know what? If that works out, and if they retain Diaz over on the left, and then you've got potentially Chiesa who could then succeed. I thought Willie thought we had a parrot. If then potentially Chiesa then could down the line succeed Salah on the right side, I believe they get a very good player at ridiculously cheap transfer. And he's still only young.
Yeah, he's still 26. Yeah, he's 26.
Young. Yeah, it's a young player. He's arguably got the best years ahead of him. So they didn't really do that much in terms of their
outs. 22 really.
The ins as well. They didn't really do a massive amount in terms of the ins. But to be fair, Jurgen Klopp has left Arne Slot with a very, very good squad, a squad that can be competitive. He's got players in there that he'll know in terms of the likes of Gakpo, Van Dijk. because of the nationality Dutch, etc.
The fresh United says it all.
Well,
sorry, Andrew,
good.
if you're listening.
Do you know what I mean? They've looked pretty good. I know they've had one iffy result, but they look pretty good in their opening few games. So I think it might be a little bit too much in his first season to really challenge Arsenal and City for the top two. But I think that they're going to be comfortably in the top four. I don't have anything. I think Slot, from what I've seen, he's not a manager that kicks up a massive fuss. He's happy to go with what he's got. I think they'll probably strengthen with one or two in January as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, again, players that are already there, the likes of Elliot, I think will get more time. He's already got Jota. My one concern would be, and then maybe we could see him maybe potentially go in January, would be Nunes, because he don't really seem to fancy him.
Yeah, he doesn't seem happy, does he?
Yeah, no, Jota's been. I mean, Nunes hasn't kicked up a fuss or anything, but Jota has been preferred in the as the focal point. So it'd be interesting to see.
See how Nunes goes. Yeah, if he does.
Yeah, if he does go, if maybe a loan move, or maybe he'll stay, maybe he'll get back in the team. He's still a good player. He just has that he's that sort of like that Mudryk thing where the end product isn't always as good. But in terms of his his ability to find space in the box, his movement's very, very good. It's just the finishing isn't always up to a great standard. So so that's Liverpool.
City now, Man City.
They'll be thereabouts. City didn't do massive amounts.
No.
But
Gundogan back again on a free.
That is just the most sensible move ever.
Brilliant. Can't fault that whatsoever. I don't really know much about this Brazilian, this 20-year-old. Don't mean much about him.
Again, this is you're talking about what's his face? Savio, I presume.
Savino, was it? Is it?
Savino, yeah.
Yeah.
So Savino, I think so he was owned by Troyes, or whatever you want to call him.
Troyes.
Never played for him. Went on loan to Girona, done amazing with Girona, and then obviously City have brought him in. Now, here's the twist. Both those clubs are owned by the same group that owns City.
Ah, that explains it then. Oh, dear.
So, and
obviously, there isn't much.
It is what it is. It is what it is. I'm not going to say too much on transfer rulings, etc. There is one thing to note with City, is that I believe at some point this week or within the next week or so, the case against them with the 115 charges is about to begin.
Yeah.
So we're not, what that means going forward, we don't know. I mean, their departures has been more impressive than their ins. Ridiculous amount of money that they brought in. So
a stupid amount of money, mate.
Alvarez, I think overall that deal ends up being closer to 80 odd million for him. Calvin Phillips has obviously gone out on loan. We knew that would happen. And
shallow at his age for that price, and that's
Cancelo, Cancelo off to Saudi yet again.
Yeah.
And then for a youngster, which will be a pure profit deal, off to Southampton.
Great player as well. I've seen him play at Stoke. Great player. I would.
Again, that could be a significant signing for them and all for Southampton. So obviously Sergio Gomez has gone out on loan, not a massive amount of money, but again, he gets the money off the books. So not that City need to worry about that, but every club needs to worry about that, because at the moment every club's got to, it's got to comply with these silly rules.
Right, and then on to United now. Yeah,
Man United. Obviously retained Eric Ten Hag. Giving him a stay of execution, if you like. How long that lasts?
Yeah, Xerxes, Delit, Agarte.
Yeah, good signings. I mean, they're back to the transfer market. You can't not argue. Lenny Yoro, very unfortunate. Very, very good young player. Very, very unfortunate that he got injured in pre-season.
18 as well.
He looks like he could be out for a lot of the...
Mazarawi, though, as well, from Bayern.
Yeah, a good player.
Played all right as well against Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they lost Wan-Bissaka. So, we'll talk about him, where he went. Agarte could be a very, very good signing. He could be that anchor in midfield that frees up Mainu and Fernandez for more attacking areas. He is a
only
proper
23 as well.
Yeah, he's a proper out and out number 6. He's one of them ones that he will sit there, break up play, be that transition player between the midfield and the attack. And also it will give the defence, because obviously Ten Hag wants to play out from the back. Onana normally screws him over with that, but he will be that player who can then drop in the pockets, receive the ball off the goalkeeper or the centre halves, and then transition that play into the forward areas. So that's a good signing. Xerxes, again, you don't know quite how that's going to work out. Dutch forwards sometimes don't quite settle in the Premier League.
What do you reckon to De Ligt?
I think it's a good signing.
It's a good sign, but I've not seen him play well as of late.
No, he's had a tough time.
Struggling against Liverpool, didn't he?
Yeah, he had a tough time. It'll take him, he's not the quickest of centre backs. It will take him time to settle. I believe that pairing him and overall long term, him and Martinez as a partnership together will work really well. Obviously, there's a problem at left back because Luke Shaw injured. So left back's going to be an issue. But once they get a solid, fully fit back four in place, we got Marazawi. It could work really well. In terms of departures, obviously we took Sancho alone. McTominay, I think that's a real shame. I really do. I
think Napoli could do well there.
Underrated for me. I think he does exactly what you need him to do. He can boss the midfield. He can be an 8 and go box to box. He can play as a defensive midfielder, and he's got goals in him as well from midfield. So I think for him, that's a phenomenal move to Napoli. And the fact that he's going into Napoli and going to be playing alongside Billy Gilmour, straight away he's going to have some common ground to work from.
Yeah, some not bad players gone there either.
Mate, I tell you what,
Gilmour, Lukaku, and you know what I mean. Some good players gone to Napoli.
Given a hero's welcome.
Oh, yeah,
and the fact that they've got Conte as manager as well, and Conte will know these players like Billy Gilmour. Conte had Billy Gilmour at Chelsea, so he knows Billy Gilmour.
So he's only a youngster when he was in the
he's only a youngster when Conte was there, and obviously Conte managed in the Premier League, with Chelsea and Spurs. He'll have familiarity with, with McTominay as well. So obviously Greenwood spent last season on loan in Spain, but has now gone on a permanent to Marseille. So that'd be interesting. Greenwood and Neil Maupay up front.
Forgot about that. Yeah, because he went Marseille, didn't he?
And obviously they lost. Aaron Wan-Bissaka went to West Ham, so we'll talk about that.
Sign of West Ham.
Not surprised. Rafael Varane has gone. Bit of a shame. Good player when fit, but couldn't stay fit. But a real shame for him that his time at Man United ended in the way it did. Really, constant injuries, but could have been a very good player. Yeah. So then we move on to Newcastle. We'll just say that I do think that United will be there or thereabouts pushing for top 4, but I think they'll just fall short. Little Lexi's come up to say hello.
Yeah, she wants to go to the toilet, so I may have to give you over to Hodge in a second while I just go and let her out. Well,
I'll tell you what, I'll cover you go and let the poor dog out, and then I'm going to rattle through. I'll rattle through Newcastle and Nottingham.
Righto, yeah, because I don't want to talk about Forest. Don't like them.
Yeah, Derby fan. You don't like Forest.
Don't like Forest.
Talking about them, so I'll give you my thoughts on. I'll give you my thoughts on Newcastle. What Ads goes and lets the dog have a wee wee.
Yes, guys, I'll catch you in a minute.
Yeah, so obviously, in terms of arrivals, Lewis Hall was an obligation to buy. So that was, he's a good player. He's a player I didn't want to let go from Chelsea. I'm not overly familiar with the goalkeeper, but he'll provide cover and competition for Nick Pope. And Lloyd Kelly is a free transfer. Obviously, it's a player that Eddie Howe knows very, very well from his time at Bournemouth. So that potentially could be a good signing, especially on a free. And I'm not overly familiar with Asula, a player that they brought in from Sheffield. Sure, it's Sheffield. I think it was, yeah. So they've not done a massive amount in terms of their transfers. I know that probably would have frustrated Eddie Howe quite a bit because he wants to push the club on. The club have obviously got very, very wealthy owners, but yet again, because of PSR, that money's not been able to be punched into the club. Elliot Anderson, that for me is a bit of a strange one. Obviously, for them, it's great money that they brought in for that, and obviously they sold the young winger Minty to Brighton, so that was a significant amount of money for them. So again, I think Eddie might have a bit of a struggle to maybe keep up with the top six. So it could be a 10th to 6th finish for Newcastle for me. I think they'll have a little bit of a wobble this season, but you never know. They could do something in one of the cups. But don't underestimate Eddie Howe and his potential to pull out results and work really well with what he's got. So we'll see how they do. We're going to move on to Nottingham Forest, which is obviously a nemesis club to to Derby, who Adam is a fan of. And Nottingham are always, as we've seen, and they got done for the points. They are a club that like to fall foul of the PSR rules. But they've had obviously they brought in Elliot Anderson from Newcastle, who we just touched on. Who's a very good player, actually. I mean, he is a good player. It'd be interesting to see how that works with him. And then they brought in James Ward-Prowse on a loan from West Ham. That didn't really work out to West Ham for James Ward-Prowse. I think that's a very good player. I think Forest are getting a very good player in that. Not really overly familiar with Milenkovic. I didn't see him too much at Fiorentina. I didn't really catch too much of the Serie A last season, so don't know really how that works. And same with Morata even from Benfica. So it'd be interesting to see how it works out for them. In terms of their departures, Niakite, who was a good centre-back, he's gone to Lyon. And same with Mangala. So there's two players. I mean, that's a combined amount of money of 50 odd million that they brought in for them two players. And obviously they sold the goalkeeper, Vlachodimos or Chakadimas player. I don't know how to pronounce his name. But yeah, obviously he's gone off to Newcastle to give competition to Pope. So that's relatively good money coming in from him. But obviously their squad size was pretty large anyway. So they would have needed to trim the books, if you like. Obviously in forward areas, they managed to retain Elanga despite the interest on deadline day. I know Newcastle were pushing for Elanga. If they can stay fit, Hudson-Odoi and Gibbs-White provide a very, very good attacking base for their sort of like attacking midfield areas. Gibbs-White is a player I like a lot. And then with Chris Wood, Chris Wood is what you get with Chris Wood. You get a nice big lump in the box. He ain't bad on, as they say, he's got good feet for a big man. So again, I think it'd be touch and go for Forest. If they can get run a few games together and a few wins, they could potentially keep themselves enough away from the relegation zone. It's whether or not their FFP or PSR cases that are there, whether or not anything that creeps up again this season for any potential points deductions going forward. I'm not too sure if they've got anything, hanging over their heads on that. So that would be interesting to see. So that's them covered. So now we're going to have a little look at a good friend of mine. He's a big Southampton fan. He was obviously on the last show of season 4. So now we're going to have a look at Southampton.
I'm back, guys.
And Adam rejoins us.
Yep.
So obviously promoted back to the Premier League, Southampton. Obviously they've signed Darren Ramsdale from Arsenal, that's a really good signing. They've taken another Chelsea player that's gone on loan. We can't get away from Chelsea. So Leslie Ugachukwu. Now I like Ugachukwu. I think he's a very good player, and I think he'll do really, really well at Southampton. Obviously they brought in Archer from Villa.
Yeah, Howard Bellis as well from City.
Yeah, Flynn Downs, obviously former Swansea player. Didn't really work out for him at his boyhood club, West Ham. So he's ended up with a permanent transfer to Southampton. I'm not overly familiar yet, like I said, with Bellis. So, and I know you had said that he'd seen a bit of him and he looks a good player. So
yeah, he's good.
They've strengthened the spine of the squad and team. So it'd be interesting to see how they do.
That Diaz from Villarreal as well that was played for Blackburn.
Yeah.
Signed him as well, striker. He could be a decent player.
Berriton Diaz. We don't know how well he'll do. We don't know how well he'll do in the Premier League, but
yeah, you never know.
You never know. Obviously, top departures, Alcaraz in terms of going out, a relatively significant amount of money. Shea Adams, they lost on a free transfer. He's off. He's gone to Torino. Mara, I'm not particularly familiar with. He left for good money though, so they have got a bit of money in, and they've spent a relatively significant. I think getting Ramsdale is a good signing for them.
I think it is as well.
That might just give them a fair shot, having a really good class goalkeeper, and might give them a fair shot of staying in the league,
and getting back into the England team. I think getting back into the
potentially, yeah, it might give Pickford a bit of competition in terms of that. Same you could say with Sam Johnson as well. That's another player who will have ambitions. He has been in the England squad. So that would be interesting to see. So I think it's going to be tough for Southampton. I know my poor mate, Mr. Simon Cotton, won't like me saying that, but I think it's going to be a bit of a struggle. It's going to be an up and down season but they might just have enough, but they may just need one of the regular Premier League teams to have a bad season for them to, have an opportunity to stay up. But it can happen. Anything can happen in football. So that's Southampton. Let's move on to the old
Spurs.
The old Spurs, eh? So
so you got Solanke.
Obviously, Solanke again. Very, very surprised at the amount of money. I'm surprised that Daniel Levy putting his hand in his pocket for a player
for that amount.
Like Solanke for that amount. I am, and I know that might come across as a bit, dismissive of Solanke, but I don't know.
Archie Gray as well from Leeds, another academy again, Leeds.
Listen, I think that's a very, very good signing. I know he may not be complete. He may not be completely ready to start week in, week out at his age, but I think potential-wise, Archie Gray, he's a very, very good player. Really good on the ball. Again, commits players, makes things happen, drives through the middle of the pitch. I think that's potentially. I think we could see an Archie Gray. Not that I'm not comparing them in terms of players, but in terms of a player breaking out, the way we saw Dele Alli break out when he signed to Spurs from MK Dons, and I think Archie Gray can have that kind of effect. Two completely different types of player, but I think the effect can be the same. I do believe that he can step up from that Championship level. I do believe he's got that class. I'm not overly familiar with Odobert in terms of.
I watched him the other day, mate, and he was unbelievable. He was a good player, very good player.
Yeah, from what I've seen so far, I do like the look of him, and I saw a few bits and pieces of some Spurs games as well. I quite like the look of this Lucas Bergvall.
Young lad, isn't he? Young Swedish lad.
Yeah. And,
18,
relatively low fee.
He has come on as a few subs as well in the games.
Yeah, and obviously losing like midfield players in terms of like Skip, Højbjerg, Lo Celso, etc. I do believe that the squad will look better for having one or two these young players in there.
There's some big players that have gone out from Spurs, like Skip, Emerson, Roden, Salsa, Perisic, and Dumbele.
I'm not too surprised on some of them. Obviously, in terms of this season, your two of your bigger ones would have been Højbjerg. That didn't surprise me. And yet again, Marseille again.
Coming in, yeah.
I know.
It's got a good team they are.
I'll tell you what, you know what, Marseille could have a bit of a push against PSG this season, you know.
Yeah, I can see it happening personally.
You could. So
Brian Gill as well on Girona on loan. He's a great player.
Yeah, he's a, I think for him he was just a bit too lightweight for the Premier League.
Yeah.
A decent player, but a bit too lightweight. So yeah, again, it'll be an ambition of Big Ange. He'll want to push for the top 4 Champions League qualification. I think that's vital for a club of Spurs size that they're there for that. But it's not easy. It's not easy trying to get into those Champions League positions because there's so many teams.
So many good teams.
So many teams that are competitive.
Yeah.
And the team that we're going to be talking about next are my pick for the surprise team of the season.
What, West Ham?
West Ham, I do.
Yeah.
I think
the signings they've made, mate. I am going to tell you now. I can see it happening.
But it ain't just that. It's not even just about the signings.
I'm going to say top 4 for them.
I've actually said it. I did say it. I have predicted that West Ham are my surprise team. I think that West Ham could be this season's Aston Villa.
Yeah,
where,
top 4.
I do.
Easy.
I do. I think
the signings they've made, like Somerville, Fulkrug, what a signing that is for
Fulkrug, you know, that's the perfect signing for West Ham. So you get a player that, in terms of like hold up ability, and that can do what Mikel Antonio does. And you know, having them to compete in for that central position, I think that's good. And Fulkrug, we've seen it even with Germany in the Euros. He is a capable striker.
Yeah, he's ridiculous.
Not to be underestimated. I think that's a very, very good signing. They've gone
Somerville.
out. Well, you got Somerville in terms of that, but what I like of what he's done, and if you look at it on paper, he's gone out and got a ready-made partnership at the back in Kilman and Todibo. In terms of, you know, fullbacks, I think that's
good signings. That is.
I think that they've done really well.
Yeah. Looking at it now, and you see them names. It's like that Carlos Soler on loan from PSG. That's a great signing.
That's a very good signing.
Very good experienced midfielder there.
They brought in the Brazilian winger Guilherme. I think that again, I know it might take him a bit of time. South American player might take him a bit of a time to adjust, but they've retained Paquetá. So you know, no one came in for Paquetá because there's stuff going on in the background with him. Potentially could be a ban or whatever. But yeah, I like the look of that. I like what they've done. You know,
yes, it looks amazing, and the outs as well. They've done well with the outs. I think some of the depth there.
I mean,
I've got a bit of a soft spot for West Ham. I have a shirt in there, West Ham shirt, and
obviously a Gerd's going out on loan. I quite liked him. I thought he was a good centre half.
Yeah, good defender. So I was quite surprised when I saw that one.
I felt a bit sorry for Ward-Prowse. He just doesn't fit the.
And look where he's gone. Look where he's gone.
I don't think he fits the pacey dynamic of what Lopetegui wants in his midfield.
Yeah. Good signing for Forest, I must say.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that, even though I'm not a thing for Forest, but that's a great signing.
Yeah. Cat Kicker's gone off to Saudi.
Cat Kicker?
Yeah, Zuma.
Oh, Zuma, yeah. I just saw that.
And obviously, they got a bit of money in for Ben Rama. You know, he's gone for a bit of money, and obviously they got
decent money. Yeah,
they got some good money for Flynn Downs as well from Southampton. So.
And Kieran, they've got some good money for him. That centre back.
Yeah, you know, Tilo Kehrer, and I think that's a bit of a shame actually, because I think he was. I liked him. He's a good player.
He wasn't that bad, was he?
He could cover centre back, and he could cover the right back areas as well. Johnson to Ipswich yet again. On a free.
Yeah, good signing for Ipswich. Yeah, that's good. Flynn Downs. I was quite surprised at that one.
Yeah, not really, because he weren't playing.
Good money for him though.
It's good money. It's good money, and it's.
Again, is that another academy?
No. He was brought in from Swansea.
Oh, yeah, Swansea,
yeah. But he was a boyhood West Ham fan, so he got to his dream club for him, but he didn't really work out.
Now he's dreamed out.
Obviously, Bonner, a player that served them brilliantly. He's gone to Watford in the Championship. I think that's a good move for them.
That's a great signing for a championship side.
Yeah, and then obviously Ben Johnson, which is I'm surprised he didn't sign a new contract, but maybe I don't know. I don't understand why. I think he's a good right back personally.
Good signing for Ipswich.
I think it's a very good free signing for Ipswich. So they're my tip. They're my surprise team. I'm tipping West Ham. I'm not saying they will, but I'm just thinking. I'm thinking that I think Lopetegui could do something with them this season.
And this next team, I'm predicting to go down.
I don't know, because everyone's written Gary O'Neill off from the minute he walked into that job, and for me, he's done well. Whether or not they can maintain that with the players that they've got, I don't know. Obviously, we spanked him, but do you know what? That 6-2 don't really tell the whole story of the game, because the first half they were very competitive and they could have easily have gone in.
Yeah, I thought they were going to get you first half, and then Chelsea just come out second half and just blitzed them.
Yeah,
and I was that was a big shot, that was. But yeah,
in terms of players in, they haven't gone.
Johnson, great signing.
Andre as a defensive midfielder, we don't really know too much about him, so we don't know what that's going to look like.
Gomez, I've never heard of him.
Gomez. I'm a little bit familiar with Strand Larsen. I've seen him, but he's a very typical number 9, straight up striker. So,
and that Tommy Doyle, I've seen him a few times play for City.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
He's not a bad little midfielder, him, to be fair.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that works in terms of their forward areas. They've still got obviously Cunha who can play forward, and Padence's gone as well.
He's gone to and Kilman's got obviously West Ham, Neto to Chelsea.
Fabio Silva, which was obviously a big signing when they brought him in. They paid like 35 odd million for him as a young lad. That ain't quite worked out for him there, so he's gone back out on loan. Padence, I quite like Padence. I thought he was
a good player, mate. I think he's got the potential, especially his age, 28. But for me, Fabio Silva as well. He was a good signing when they had him. He's gone out again on loan.
Well, he never really kicked on it for me, Fabio Silva. No.
Good signing at the time, but didn't really do anything.
It was an exciting signing in terms of like you're paying a lot of money for a young forward, but it just never happened.
And it's like Chawera. He's gone to obviously my club Derby, as you can see. I've not seen him yet.
I think Max Kilman's going to be a big loss for them. That is a big loss.
Yeah, because they didn't really. Did they replace him? They didn't really, did they?
No. And kind of the way they've been lining up, it's almost been like at times like a bit of a 5. So Aït-Nouri's been pushed up more in terms of like a left mid, sort of more of attacking, almost wing back role. So it kind of like Semedo will kind of step inside, the back will shuffle across. Everyone's playing with these inverted, fullbacks these days, where one of them will step in midfield. But in terms of their midfield, Gomez he looks a very good player. Bellegarde I like in terms of his as a wide player. If they can keep him fit, he'll do well. And then when you have Cunha in the 10 sitting in behind Larsen, Cunha in that first half on that left hand side, mate. Honestly, the way Chelsea played against him in that 6-2. So in the first half, Cunha and Aït-Nouri, they had Fofana and
in their pocket, didn't they?
Yeah, they had Fofana and Malagusto on toast. They were really struggling because we were trying to play with these inverted fullbacks where the right back or the left back, depending on where the ball was, where they would come inside and, slip into the midfield. Well, Aït-Nouri and Cunha were just ripping us apart on that left-hand side.
Yeah, because I said to you, like I said, just the first half, that's when he saw it. Yeah, and then he made the changes, didn't he?
He did. He made completely tactically more than anything. Pedro Neto came on. That then stopped their attacking abilities on the right side of the pitch because they had to. Their fullbacks had to then drop in. The likes of Semedo, Totti, etc. They couldn't then get forward in supplement to their thing. I think that's an isolated result for them. I don't think that's the way it's going to go for Wolves. I do believe that they'll stay up. I'm
predicting bottom 3. I am predicting bottom 3. Anyone in chat? What's your predictions for this season? Who do you think is going to go down?
I do believe Wolves will stay up. I think they'll have enough in the squad. I like Lamina in midfield. I like that combination of Lamina and Gomez in the midfield. They've signed a very good goalkeeper in Sam Johnson. they've got good fullbacks in Totti and Semedo and Dawson and Mascara at the back in terms of centre backs. But yeah, again, it is all about whether or not they can keep the squad fit.
Yeah. I'm saying the bottom three as it stands now. So it's Wolves, Southampton. That's what I think it's going to end.
Squad don't go massively deep. Obviously bringing in Gomez to supplement the midfield.
We've had a prediction lot: Ipswich, Everton, Southampton from Willie.
Do you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if that. I think Everton. I don't know with Everton.
He's got two of my teams in there. I'm saying Wolves, Southampton, Everton.
Yeah, I think this could be the season Everton go. I wouldn't even be surprised if we saw Sean Dyche sacked before.
I think it will
before Christmas.
Conceding 10 goals.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him go. And I know it's been rumoured that potentially David Moyes goes back in there to try and save the club.
He did it with West Ham, so why not?
Well, he won West Ham their only trophy for
exactly
years.
There you go, says it all, doesn't it?
I know the football weren't pretty at times, but it was effective.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, I fear for Everton. I do. I think it's been coming, and they could have the best stadium in the Championship next season.
Yeah, ridiculous amount of money and all.
Yeah, so that's all the teams covered.
Yep, and we've done the England team, so we don't need to do that now.
Yeah, we spoke about that. I do think it's going to be an interesting next 3 or 4 games to see how things shake out in the Premier League. We've got obviously once the international break is finished, I think the games will kick back in on the 14th. So then you've got Southampton at home with Man United. We've got Brighton and Ipswich at the Amex, Crystal Palace, Leicester at Selhurst, Fulham, West Ham. So you've got a nice London derby there. That'll be an interesting game. Liverpool against your nemesis club Forest at Anfield. At the Etihad, Man City against the Bees, Brentford. So anyone that hasn't used their triple captain on Erling Haaland, get that in for that game because I think he's going to absolutely murder them. And then Aston Villa are then at home to Everton. I think Villa, that's a comfortable win there.
Yeah, easy win there.
Yeah, that's the 5:30 Saturday game, and then an unusual one on Saturday, a late night Saturday night football. It's Bournemouth against my club Chelsea, which is an 8 p.m. kickoff, I believe.
Yeah, for anyone that does want to watch this pod back, I will split on the sections. I will split it into teams. So if someone just wants to skip to their team, they can do, or if they want to watch it all. Yeah, if they want to hear our thoughts, then you can do that.
Yeah,
just so it helps people with skipping through rather than
having
to through it all to listen to.
Adam is now my creative director on the podcast. So all the nice, pretty new thumbnails that we have were done by him. Yeah. Because I'm good with certain aspects of technology, and with others I'm not. So he's good at that kind of thing.
Useless.
So Adam will be handling those kind of things, and he'll chapter the podcast down, because obviously we were only going to do like about an hour and a bit, but
if it was only a half an hour, I wouldn't do it. But with it being an hour and 42, and if people want to go to their team, then they can do it. It just makes it easier.
It
makes it a lot easier.
Some people will be more interested in listening to what we've got to say about their team rather than others. So that's it.
If you can watch the full episode, it'd be amazing, because it does help with the watch hours, does help us trying to grow. So
and obviously, more important than everything, give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button, because our aim across this current season that we started, season 5, is to get to that magical 100 subs number. So if you have dropped in or you do end up watching this back, please drop us a little sub. We love interaction. So comments on our videos, etc. Go back and even if you just want to listen to it, you can access the podcast playlist. And you can listen to it just in audio as well. So the audio will be available within a couple of days of this video going out, because obviously we need to get the audio. I'll do the little edit and put the nice little theme tunes on, etc.
Yeah, and I'll get all the skips done.
Don't be afraid to get in contact with the show. We welcome any guests onto the show to talk about football. It doesn't matter what you support, whether you support clubs outside the Premier League, particularly women's football, grassroots football. We want to have a focus on that this season. And it doesn't matter where you are in the world, whether, you could be in Germany, Italy, MLS in America, South American teams. We welcome everyone. So, yeah, you can get in contact with the show via the socials. The links are all across the description, in the bios, etc. And even if you want to do the old-fashioned email, you can email the show on talkfootballpdc@gmail.com. So if you're interested in coming on, all I ask is if you are under the age of 16, that you can come on with a parent or with a parent's permission. If I can speak to your parents on Zoom, etc., and then get they can have their permission if they're comfortable with you coming on the pod. All the social links are running on a ticker below, so if you want to do that, you can see that there. And that's it. So yeah, get in contact with us and feel free to come on and talk football with us at the Talk Football Podcast. So for me, your host Hodgie, thank you very much for joining, and to my co-host for today, Adam, thank you for joining the pod, mate.
And cheers, guys. And the email is below me, so if you do want to come back and get it, then you can. It's below me on the picture.
And then we'll catch you on the next episode. So stay tuned for that. Hit that bell, and then as soon as we get an episode up, you'll get that notification and enjoy what we've got to say. If you disagree with us, we welcome those comments as well. So any comments, if you think we're talking absolute rubbish, come on and tell us. So yes, thank you for joining the show. This has been season 5, episode 2, Talk Football Podcast. For those that are watching the England game, you've got about 10 minutes to get yourself a brew and get your TV on, etc. And we're probably going to go and play a bit of Call of Duty while watching this, because if we don't go well, we can commiserate ourselves for shooting people in the face. So
yes, take it easy, guys, and stay safe.
See you on the next one.